Hello everyone. Today, we'll look at the top 10 questions you should definitely look into if you want to invest in stocks yourself. Since these are the 10 most important questions, not all the questions that can be asked, so be sure to orient yourself properly before making a choice. If you ask, we can also help you in the field of private banking and portfolio management. You will find a link to this in the description. The first and perhaps most important question is, in which industry the company is present? A technology digital company has completely different options than, say, a car manufacturer. Partly because they don't need capital-intensive factories. There is no better or worse area, only one company or another can perform better under the given circumstances. And along with the circumstances, the ability to pay dividends and the price of their shares will also change. The industry in which the company operates also shows whether you want to invest more because of dividend payments or because of the possibility of exchange rate gains. So it shows how you can make the most profit. The second question is what the value of the stock is. The price of the shares resulting from the valuation of the shares and the actual performance of the company do not necessarily overlap. The exchange rate depends largely on how investors see how that company works. If you think of the downturn caused by the coronavirus, a lot of companies' stocks have fallen in price simply because they have temporarily stopped production. If you look at the value of McDonald's shares, you can see that it crashed due to quarantine and then restarted if the situation settled. Obviously, this affected not only the McDonald's, but almost every company. Regardless of the shutdown, the factories have survived, so once the conditions have settled, the operation will be smooth and at the same time the exchange rates will settle. Underestimation can be caused by any event. If there is no other reason for this than belief, you can make a serious exchange rate gain from it. However, the price of an overvalued stock can be rearranged at any time. The third question is whether the company has a sustainable competitive advantage. Why would you buy the products of that company? Why do you choose it? If you can answer that, obviously other buyers will be able to answer as well, and they will take their money to this company, which means a stable or rising exchange rate for you. This answer can be either a very strong and well-built brand, but even a technological advantage that is very difficult to catch up with. Competitive advantage ensures that the buyer wants to buy from them. Think of, for example, the Coca-Cola. The manufacturing company knows exactly in what is it strong and why it is strong. So if you start a cola factory, you won't be able to scare the manufacturer very much. After all, even Pepsi doesn't scare them much. If it didn't have such a competitive advantage, anyone could take customers away from them at any time, and at the same time take their livelihood. This, of course, would also have an effect on the exchange rate. The fourth question is who are their main competitors? Competitors may still be tiny, but if they are developing more dynamically than the company you are looking at, you can make more profit through them. Not to mention that if the company doesn't switch on time, emerging competitors will very easily bring in that competitive advantage. Don't be fooled if the company you look has a long history and is widely known. This is the present state. Now, I'm intentionally giving an example where you don't necessarily think about stocks. The post office is great and well-known company. Their competitors will not be the post offices in another country, but companies set up much later, even in another industry. Courier services will be the challenger and email will be the challenger. If they can't beat them, then after a while we can only talk about being a great company in the past tense. The fifth question is, how the company has performed in the past. Of course, this is not about looking at stock prices. After all, past exchange rate movements are for information purposes only. Look at what the actual economic activity of the company looks like and how the result achieved in it develops. Such can be, for example, the balance sheet profit, operating profit, and other indicators. If there has been no major change in the company and its operating conditions, it is expected to perform similarly in the future. The sixth question is, whether the company is profitable. If you review their accounting balance sheet, take a look at your profits as well. If you're watching only the indicators, you may not be able to collect all the information you need, or they may not reflect the reality as a whole. This may not be intentional, it may just be enough to distort the picture. Profits are either there or not. Do not look at only 1 year as a whole, After all, closing a year at a loss can be a natural result of a more breathtaking development. And this is already related to the past performance just mentioned. If you see it often, that they closing with loss, even with increasing sales, you are better to treat it with caution. Next question is, how stable the company is financially. It may be profitable, it may perform well, but the question is, does only the year-end balance sheet look good, or does it look nice during the year? Tight liquidity can be a source of problems, even with profitability. In addition to the current payment difficulties, the company may still be profitable overall, but then the problem may easily spread over. And that leads to the next question, which is, how much credit the company has. Here, of course, the question is not whether you would be able to repay this loan yourself. Overall, look at it in terms of revenue and fixed assets. An aggressive financing strategy provides an opportunity for a company to grow faster. But a loan has to be paid even when revenues are either lost or just delayed. A company with a high loan portfolio risks going bankrupt in a possible crisis situation. The eighth question is, who runs the company? Naturally, the person of a novice or as yet unknown leader gives uncertainty. Will he be able to solve the tasks waiting for him, or would it be better to choose someone who has already put something on the table? Investors love stability, and this is the easiest way to achieve this with experienced and competent management. Who controls the company whose shares you want to buy? What is the willingness of the risk-taking and what direction does it represent in management, how open they are to innovation? These are all crucial factors in a company's future performance. If you're looking at running a business, don't just see what's described in the company listing. Where appropriate, it may also be important for the major shareholder or in the case of a subsidiary, those who have influence over the management of the parent. Last but not least, take a look at the news about the company. The media loves bad news, juicy stories, and there are people everywhere who may have made a bad decision only once in their lives. This man is not necessarily in a leadership position, he can be anyone. That is why the question is not whether there is any bad news about it, but what bad news there is. It matters if someone caused an accident or the management was arrested for tax fraud. In the event of very negative news with poor PR value, the company may decide to change the management, even if their work was just unethical. And until the new staff integrates, the company's performance may decline. Coupled with this with a bad circumstance, say a high loan portfolio, not a very large competitive advantage, they may set back the company's performance for years, and thus the value of its shares as well. A positive development news, on the other hand, predicts the potential for growth. Then an even lower exchange rate can jump suddenly higher.